Perfect. Everyone, thank y'all so much for coming out tonight. It's a beautiful night, Calhoun, Georgia, Friday night. And I know many of you have a lot of places you could be in the middle of June. So thank y'all so much for coming out. It means a lot to each and every one of us on the PFAS Georgia team that you all are here. Because you all are the most important component of this entire movement that we've started in Northwest Georgia, and y'all are a pivotal piece of it. And you're going to hear a lot about exactly what we've accomplished over the course of the past 10 months tonight. And we got a long way to go. We're not done yet. And I think that's the most important thing for each and every one of you to take away from this is that we're not done yet, and we have a really long way to go. But together, each and every one of us can make a difference, okay? We started this project in September of 2024. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know the type of reaction that we would have. Ben and I are from Columbus. Ben Finley is the attorney that's leading this project, and my name is Nick Jackson. I don't think I said that in the beginning. But we primarily practice out of Columbus and Atlanta, and so by all means, we're outsiders, admittedly so, okay? And we came into this area knowing just how tight-knit of a community Northwest Georgia is. We did not know exactly what we would be experiencing. And then we had our first town hall with Erin Brockovich. And as a young attorney, that night, I can honestly say, changed my life. I stood shoulder to shoulder with her as people came up to her and said, my 29-year-old son has testicular cancer. My 38-year-old husband does. Oh, my 42-year-old husband, early onset dementia. No genetic markers. My 21-year-old daughter had uterine cancer and had to have a complete hysterectomy and will never be able to have children. These are real stories. Some of these stories are in this room. And I know because I've heard them firsthand and I've lived through so much of it over the course of the past 10 months with so many of you. And that's exactly what I've taken away from it. And I promise if you listen tonight, you'll hear so much about people, not about a lawsuit, but about people, that you'll take away a lot too. Erin, unfortunately, cannot be here tonight. That's the bad news. The good news is I am her replacement. But she unfortunately had a serious illness, and her doctor would not let her come out tonight, and it really happened at the last second, so I apologize for that. But Erin Brockovich, the entire concept of the movie, if you watch it, the entire premise is about how one person can make a change. Erin Brockovich wasn't an attorney, right? She was a single mother who was a paralegal that worked at a law firm, and she stood there toe-to-toe with the best of them and said, damn it, you're going to listen to me, okay? Several months ago, I had a town hall in South Whitfield County with a lady by the name of Martha Bradford, and she's here tonight. She's a very special person to me, means a lot to me. She's been through a lot, but she's been very, very resilient. And I was telling Miss Bradford, I said, we've got to get you a meeting with Erin Brockovich. You were great. Your story is great. You were so passionate. You're genuine with everything you're saying. Miss Bradford looked at me and she said, honey, Erin Brockovich needs a meeting with me. I don't need a meeting with Erin Brockovich. She needs to meet me. And that type of mentality is something that really changed my entire perspective on this entire campaign. Because this isn't about Erin Brockovich, this isn't about Nick Jackson, this isn't about Ben Finley. We're a part of this team. We are bringing attention to this cause. But this is about all of you. This is your part of the state, part of the country where you all grew up, where you all have raised families. Right? These are your health stories to tell. These are your surgeries and deaths and job losses and everything else that you've suffered because of this chemical, right? And it has caused so much damage and destruction to this part of the country that it is truly, truly catastrophic. And you'll hear that word a lot tonight. And our water expert, Bob Bowcock, who is truly the world's best water expert, he flies all around the world to talk about not just PFAS, but other water issues. Little known fact, Bob was behind the scenes in Aaron Brockovich movie and everything else too. He just doesn't have the pretty face like Aaron Brockovich, so they didn't make a movie about him, all right? But he was along for the ride every single step of the way. But what you'll hear about every single bit of this is that it is truly devastating to people. And that's what I've pulled out of it, right? It's devastating to land, we knew that. But what I didn't know was the stories that each and every one of you have told me. We faced a lot of pushback, and you're going to hear about that tonight as well. And you're also going to hear about exactly how we fought back with the help of Martha Bradford, Ronnie Anderson, and the Fletcher family who's also here tonight. We can't thank these people enough because these are the voices of Northwest Georgia. They stood up and fought for every single one of you so that your voice wouldn't be silenced. They faced a lot of backlash for doing that, okay? And it wasn't easy on them, but they did it on a moment's notice for each and every person in this room and to better the lives of the people of Northwest Georgia, and that is extremely admirable to me, with little to no thanks. So I just wanted to thank each and every one of them tonight. Tonight's going to be a really impressive presentation. You're going to hear a lot about what we have found from a testing perspective. It'll open a lot of eyes. Bob's going to fill you in on that. But first, I want to introduce our litigation leader, Ben Finley. He's a Georgia attorney. He's been practicing in Georgia for over 34 years. I've known him since the day that I was born. My dad and Ben were college roommates at the University of Georgia. He is like a second father to me, and he means the world to me. And I'm not just saying that because he signs my paycheck. Now, of course, I couldn't say it any other way because he signs my paycheck, but it is the truth. But what I've really learned over the course of the past 10 years for working for Ben, I've worked for him since I was in high school, is that he is a unifier of people. That is a gift that he has. It is God-given. And I believe that's what you will see in him tonight, and you will see in him over the course of this litigation. So it's my honor to introduce Ben Finley.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. Just spilled water all over myself and just coming up here, but no. Look, I just want to thank everybody first for being here. As Nick said, I've been practicing law for 34 years, and went to the University of Georgia. But I can't thank everybody enough on a Friday night in Calhoun, Georgia, for coming out and showing the kind of response that we've gotten and the energy that we've gotten. I think about how beautiful this part of the state is, and I love this part of the state. We used to come up here as kids. This is one of the prettiest parts of the state of Georgia. I'm a fourth-generation Georgian myself. My children are fifth-generation Georgians. And, you know, I look outside, and y'all see it like I do, but when you roll the tape back, when this country was founded and the colonies were founded, the water in the land did not look like it does now. People were able to fish. They were able to look at the water, how clean it was. And I've got a strong faith, and I'm going to share some of this with you, but I believe the Bible, and I believe what it says. And if you look at the first sentence in the Bible, it reads, and the Lord God made the heavens and earth, all right? The Lord God made the heavens and earth. Okay, so this is a gift. We're just kind of passing through, right? We're not here forever. And our grandfathers and grandmothers and great-grandfathers and grandmothers left us a legacy we're going to pass on to our children and to our grandchildren, right? I've got two children. One's 25 and one's 23. One wants to get involved in environmental law, my daughter, and she was one of the ones who told me, Daddy, you need to get behind this. You can make a difference and other people can, but this is what I want to do. So I made a pledge to my daughter that however much runway I've got left on this earth, I will work tirelessly to do everything I can to try to help everybody in this room and everybody I can with clean air and clean water, because I do believe it is a gift from God. I feel very strongly about that. Proverbs chapter 13:22 says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, all right? Your children's children are your grandchildren, and I see grandchildren here today. We won't be here, he will. It's highly likely, right? So what are we going to leave these young men and women? What we need to leave them with is clean air and clean water, and we need to do everything we can to eradicate these issues of contamination of property and all the things that have happened. And basically what happened was, when World War II was going on, they came up with the atomic bomb. And when they built the atomic bomb, it was called the Manhattan Project. And they came up with a chemical that was heat-resistant, water-resistant, fire-resistant. And then industry determined, well, we can use that. And we can put that in applications in frying pans. We can put that in in maybe a Stainmaster carpet, where carpet would stain resistant. We can put it in all kinds of other products. And in doing that, we can create all these kinds of products that we can make a lot of money from. And this company in Minnesota, 3M, came to Northwest Georgia because of the concentration of the carpet industry and how powerful the carpet industry is here. You all know over 90% of carpet in the world is made from this one little quadrant of Northwest Georgia. All right? So there's a high concentration in a small area, which resulted in all of this being contaminated. But what happened at the end of the day was, it was basically putting corporate greed and profit over human lives and safety. They knew it was dangerous. They knew it was a carcinogen. They knew it was toxic. They knew the toxicity of it. PFAS in the human body, to give you a little context, if you have the measure that you'll hear Bob and others talk about is 4 parts per trillion, which basically means if you filled up your bathtub with sand and you just took out 4 tiny grains of sand, that's it, just 4 grains of sand, that would be toxic in the human body. Okay? It's called the forever chemical. It doesn't pass through our liver and kidneys like others do in that way because of the chemical makeup of it, but it is toxic. It causes cancers. We've seen uterine cancer. We've seen breast cancer, testicular cancer, all these different things. We've got a lot of issues we're going to work through, and I'll go through a few of these slides to tell you all about this, but I want you all to learn as much as you possibly can, okay? And I want you all to be energized. This is a nonpartisan issue. This is a bipartisan issue. The Bob Bowcock is working with the Trump administration. You'll hear him talk. He was working with the Biden administration before that, and he was working with the Trump administration before the Biden administration. Everybody's for clean air and clean water. What fascinates me, though, among other things, is this. We've got I'll just tell you, our team here, if I can go back a little bit, and I'll show you what we're going to do. But this quote from Billy Graham struck me because he said it way before we started working on PFAS. And I think Billy Graham, and I always love Billy Graham because Billy Graham, in a preacher that said, do what I say or what I interpret. No, he would always start with the Bible says, which I think that's refreshing. That's what it says, right? Well, this is what Billy Graham said. When we see the world as a gift from God, we'll do our best to take care of it and use it wisely instead of poisoning or destroying it. I mean, that basically sums up the whole thing, doesn't it? I mean, isn't that it? I mean, aren't we supposed to do everything we can to not poison it? When the Native Americans were here, and you got, Catoosa County, and you got, Conasauga River, that's all Indian, it's all Native American. I mean, when the water was clean, the air was clean, so our forefathers had all that. And then the generations, if you will, from World War II, from corporations like 3M, have polluted this environment, and again, have put profit over people. But if everybody here today will step forward in unison and work together, we can change things. Aaron Brockovich proved you can change the world. If you look at kind of what we're going to do today, I'll just hit this real quickly to disclose our team in the crisis in Northwest Georgia. Bob Bowcock, again, is the top water expert in America. He testifies before Congress. He's working with Bobby Kennedy now on a lot of issues. We're going to talk about the legislative update of House Bill 211, and you're going to see my testimony against the bill. And this is disturbing to me that local legislators that you may or may not be aware of here on behalf of Mohawk and Mohawk executives came to this Georgia State Capitol, the Golden Dome, to advance a bill that would give Mohawk and Shaw in the carpet industry complete immunity from any claim that was brought, all right? Now, we have evidence that each of those companies and their executives have known about this for 20, 30, 40 years, okay, but still wanted to pass a bill which would not let anybody in this room bring a claim against them if they passed that legislation. Fortunately, that legislation didn't get off the ground, and we defeated the bill, and you're going to learn about that, and you need to hear about that. You're going to hear about litigation update on filing cases, including the fact that the city of Dalton has sued 3M, Daikin, and DuPont, the manufacturers, but the city of Dalton, through Dalton Utilities, has filed a lawsuit against Shaw and Mohawk, all right? The biggest corporate citizen in Whitfield County was sued by the city, right? Think about that. I'm from Columbus, Georgia. The whole notion of the city of Columbus suing Aflac is kind of our crown jewel, our corporate, citizen. There's no way the city of Columbus would sue Aflac unless they had all the goods on them, all the evidence on them, and it was crystal clear. And I would suggest the city of Dalton would never bring a claim against Shaw Mohawk unless they had a lot of really good evidence, which they do, and you're going to hear about. We'll talk about other claims and what we have, but our team includes us, Aaron, Bob, Nick, me, and you'll see folks throughout the room. Our local team members are in blue shirts around here. And are here to help in any way they can with anything anybody needs. Y'all got placards and cards if you have information you want us to compile. But let's talk about the crisis in Northwest Georgia. So it started with 3M. Remember, 3M is this $78 billion corporation in Minnesota, and they sell this PFAS, okay? And they produce this, and they sell it to Shaw, Mohawk, and other industry. But to be clear, this is not some Northwest Georgia issue only. This is a national issue. It's a national crisis. But there just happens to be a higher concentration here because this is a small area population-wise, right? And there's a lot of it here. So they brought it in by rail car, as I indicated, from Northwest Georgia. They knew about it. They knew about the dangers. And get a load of this. They told Shaw and Mohawk and others how to capture it on the factory floor and destroy it, but the companies chose not to and decided to pump it into the Conasauga River, pump it into the waterway, and pump it into the land. So a little bit of background, as you all may know, this has gotten a lot of press, but it's not just here. This is Fox 5 Atlanta talking about exposure to the forever chemicals in our water systems and how we kind of got here. This is Atlanta First with another article about lawsuits settled against Northwest Georgia City over toxic-laden drinking water and federal standards. Now, check this out. This is the USA Today, so this isn't a local paper. This is the national publication, and they've identified the issues with PFAS, the problems with PFAS, and as you can see from this article, this focused on Fort Worth, Texas, Fresno, California, Pensacola, and Augusta. It's everywhere. It's not just here. So the crisis in Northwest Georgia really is about the proof and the testing, and I'm going to have Bob come up here in just a second to talk about this. But let me just tell you this. We've been conducting town hall meetings, as Nick said, for pretty much close to a year now. We have tested hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of folks' water, their land, at no cost to anybody. But we have created a data bank, which is incredible. I don't know that anyone else in the country has what we have in the way of information and data. Bob's going to go over that, and I think you'll find this fascinating. You all, other than last night and the town hall we did in Chatsworth, are going to be now the second group of people in the country who are going to see what you're about to see. This was disclosed last night, but has never been disclosed anywhere other than last night and tonight. So this is it's incredible, the amount of information and the data and the work that's Bob put together. But if you would all at this point please join me in welcoming Bob Bowcock to provide more information. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. For those of you that have been following us since we got here, it was September 2024, so we're right on about 10 months. And even I couldn't have imagined that we would have amassed the data set that we have. So we've actually lived up to our commitment. We told you we were going to come to town. We were going to start sampling. I will tell you, for those of you that have been waiting a little while, we got backed up really fast. It is the largest PFAS data set in the world. We know where it's at. We know where it's coming from. We know what the concentrations are, and right now we're working on calculating exactly how much it's going to cost to clean up. But once again, we met our promise. What I want to do tonight is share with you information that you can actually retain and hopefully take home and share with your friends and neighbors. And I want to explain to you why that's as important as anything. It's about sharing the information. You know, you're not here to just listen to us talk. You're here to get answers to questions that are very, very important to you. And it's important that we understand what's going on. So, the test results in this data set that we've been talking about. So we've been testing water samples, done over 1,000 water samples alone. 56% of those water samples in the past 10 months have tested above the levels for PFAS. Now, people have said, oh, well, you know, we heard that the EPA rolled back the regulations. And that was very, very frustrating to me. I heard Ben say this is not a partisan issue, but the headline was, Trump administration rolls back EPA regulations. I prefer to say Democrat mayors in the cities sued the EPA to roll back the regulations, because that's closer to the truth, okay? And what happened was they actually did roll back the regulation ever so slightly. They kept the most important part. PFOA and PFOS are 100% still intact. They didn't change them at all. The other four had a WIGI. I've shared with you this WIGI calculation that you had to do, you know, that was based on if you had this much of this and this much of that, divide by 4, and it was kind of difficult. So that got sent back. It didn't get kicked out. It just got sent back to be reevaluated for its health effects and what the real math means. So between now and 2 years from now, 4 years from now, I've heard EPA Administrator Zeldin say it could come back even more stringent, okay? And I think that's appropriate. Now, what I want to share with you is I've been working with PFAS as well as other types of contaminants for 40 years. That's been my career, okay? 20 years ago, they hit us with this chemical compound called C8, carbon 8, okay? And that's what we knew PFAS of 20 years ago. And at that time, they asked us to go out and study the water samples around the country based on population and source, and there was all kinds of criteria. And it was called Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule 3. We're on rule number 5 evaluation is concluding right now. But at that time, you could test PFAS down to 400 nanograms per liter or parts per trillion. 400. And keep that in mind, because what I'm about to tell you is most of the samples I found in Northwest Georgia were over 400, so they had the ability to test for them literally over 20 years ago. Okay, so when they say, oh, science finally caught up and now it's a new regulation, I'm telling you the Conasauga River at points today are over 800. So they could have tested for it literally back then. So that's one important point. The other important point is, as we move forward, about 8 years ago, they dropped it to 70. And they had a health advisory come out of the US EPA, and Georgia and other states came out with this health advisory, and it was a combination of the PFAS components that you could test for at that time. They had dropped it down to around 2 that they could detect it at for each of the constituents. But if the constituents added up to, if the 6 constituents added up to 70, then you had to issue a public notification and a health advisory. Well, that sense has migrated to where PFOA and PFOS, Scotchgard and Teflon, are now regulated at 4 parts per trillion. Okay, you've heard the bathtub and the grain of sand. I want to show this to you because this is one of the samples that we actually have the results for, and I'll share that with you in just a second. So this is kind of the higher end, 41,900, 132,000, 186,310. That's in a spring, which means it has a point source, which means that's coming from somewhere in 2025 at that level. This represents 4 rice grains. This is 186,310 rice grains. That's what's in the drinking water in Northwest Georgia. Georgia. Okay, now this is the thing that really blows my mind, and it's important that you understand this. And the best thing that I can draw for you to understand so that you have a similar understanding with the health effects as you do with what's going on in the environment. 69% of the soil samples we have collected in Northwest Georgia, 69%, that's over 2/3, okay? Exceed the standards for PFOA and PFOS, okay? They're not regulatory standards, you know, because nobody's selling dirt, but they are reference levels, okay? They can only regulate what somebody purveys. Drinking water has to meet the 4.0. So these are what they call EPA thresholds. 2/3, almost 70% of those samples exceed those threshold levels. We've got 2,154,500 is the highest level we found. That's pretty astounding for the PFAS. This one over here, this is what the laboratory told us was your highest. we got a lot of these back. And what that means is the level's so high you broke our measuring equipment. Okay? So just think about that. If that's the highest we could measure with the equipment, we got a lot of these back where they said you broke our equipment. 97%, and I'll explain the 3%, of the samples that we tested for dust, they say were alarmingly high. That means they actually exceeded soil, but there's not a characterization for dust. 757,382,000, and on down. These are the highest levels for dust, okay? When we would go to your property, so what we do is we come out, we test your property, we look at the levels we find in the water. And the reason we do that, think of your body and bioaccumulation. Your blood is your rivers and your streams and your creeks, okay? And your tissue, your liver, your thyroid, those are your soil. And as the blood passes through your liver, its filter, it accumulates. So it's accumulating in your body. Males, it's literally 8 to 10 years. Females, 6 to 8 years. And the reason is females will shed protein, as well as females, when they get pregnant, they transfer it to the baby. So it can actually, and breastfeeding, they transfer it to the baby, it actually can leave the woman's body at a more rapid rate than it does the man's, okay? So what's important to understand is if a water source on your property, the creek that's filling your pond, the spring that's filling your pond, the river that you're irrigating from, every time you put 300 nanograms per liter on your soil, this season, next year, another 300. It might not be, it's not 300, 600, 900, 1,200. It doesn't work like that, but it does accumulate, and it accumulates, and it accumulates. And the reason it runs off is because some goes deeper, some runs back into the river, some goes off to your neighbor's property through the creek or through the other water dispersion method. But this is what's occurring. What we did was we wanted to take the dirt samples that we were finding, and we wanted to understand how you were becoming exposed to it. People got a lot of ride-on lawnmowers in Northwest Georgia, even the push mowers, kids riding bikes, your neighbor's dust, all that dust that you're kicking up in the soil that has the PFAS in it. We wanted to find a place in your home where it was resting that wasn't subject to the constant rainfall, okay? So we would either go into your attic dust, where you have a gable vent, and I'll show a picture of it later, or we were crawling into the crawl space where we were actually sweeping up the dust because you have the vents, okay? And so that's an area on your property that would collect the dirt in a controlled fashion. And this is where we were finding it. The 3%, right before we got there, somebody had their whole basement cleaned out and had that new white plastic done, you know, cost him about $40,000. So he tested out 0. So otherwise, I think we would have 100% on the dust. Okay, with that, I'd like to have Ben come back up and talk about the Fletcher family. Or, excuse me, it's Nick?
Well, we're both going to do this. So, told everyone last night, and I think it remains true tonight, we never put a Billy Graham quote up on the screen without some form of an altar call, right? And so we are here for a specific reason, and it's because we want to represent each and every one of you in this room if you possibly have a claim. But what we want to do right now is tell you why, because it is so important that we all come together for this one purpose. It's going to take every single person in this room in order to effectuate change. And it is going to take every single person in this room to dedicate a lot of energy to it for the rest of our lives. And that's the unfortunate situation that we're all in, because this is the forever chemical. And unless we do something about it, it's going to be here forever. And it hasn't been here forever, right? But it will be if we don't do something about it. We talked a little bit earlier about Ms. Bradford, who's here tonight, the Fletcher family, and how one person, one voice can make such a big impact, and you're going to hear even more about that, and you're going to see Ben, what he actually testified before the Georgia legislature on behalf of the people of Northwest Georgia, so that we could target those that are responsible, and we could have our day in court where there's a level playing field. United States of America is the only country in the world that has two things: right to jury, right to trial by jury, and right to vote. It's the only thing that separates us from the rest of the world. But when you bring 3M down here from Minnesota and they have to face each and every one of you in a Georgia court, it's just a little bit different, right? Playing field's leveled out just a little bit. And so we have been so moved by each and every one of you and by each and every one of your stories that we want to share just a little bit about some certain families tonight, because we want each and every one of you to join in this fight with us, because it will take each and every one of you. This is the Fletcher family up on the screen. They are here tonight. They testified at the Georgia legislature, literally on 24 hours notice. They are a working family. Mr. Fletcher had to take off work in order to do that. Ms. Fletcher stays home and raises the children to protect them from the outside world. She homeschools them. And little did this family know that they had a nightmare in their backyard that they didn't ask for, they didn't create. They are 100% victims. They have done nothing wrong. Yet I've seen this family stand up time and time again and speak out for other people to bring awareness for this cause. This is what the Fletcher family had to say. Our home, a place that used to be a beautiful family memory, now brings anxiety and fear. We go to bed at night thinking of our children's potential health issues, our medical bills, and what's going to happen to our property value. This is real. It's having a real impact, not just on the Fletchers, not just on Miss Bradford, Ronnie Anderson, and we have so many clients in this room that we're so thankful for, but it's having an impact on every single person in this room. Every single person in this room has some level of PFAS in their blood. I can almost guarantee it. I bet my paycheck on it. Well, I don't know about that, but got bills to pay. But I would put money on it. And this is a problem we're going to have to face as a society, but we can only do it together. And so what we did last night, and I thought this was a really moving moment, if you all have a sign with your test results and you feel compelled to speak out like the Fletchers have and Ms. Bradford has and Ronnie Anderson has, please raise it up so that your neighbors can see what your testing results are. This is the only way we're going to stop this, is if we tell our neighbors, hey, you may not want your kid to swim in my creek anymore, right?
So what we got here, this gentleman's got 1,752 parts per trillion. Remember, 4 parts per trillion is over the limit. This lady, young lady's got 152.9, 139.2, Miss Bradford, 186,310. I'm reading that right? 186,310. How about you in the back? What do y'all got? 145, 957, 74.7, 63.3. In your creek, 5,025, and in your well, 2,686. And this gentleman's got 44. This, as Nick said, I mean, this is real. These are the folks that live next door or in the community, and this isn't like, this is throughout all of this area, and the numbers are shocking. They're shocking, and these are the tests that we've come up with, and Bob will show you later in terms of the clusters and kind of what we've seen. But as Nick indicated, I mean, we've all got to work together with this problem, and the issues related to it. And you're going to hear about this House Bill 211 in a minute. But the courage that the Fletchers showed, that Ms. Bradford showed, and this Ronnie Anderson showed, to go down to the Georgia legislature in the Gold Dome. Any of y'all ever been to Atlanta? You know, that's the one with the Gold Dome. And you got all these folks down there, legislators, lobbyists, and all these big money people behind it. And we get in a room among a committee that's going to decide whether House Bill 211, which was authored, it appears, by Mohawk or its operatives that were there at the time that this bill was advanced, with its assistant general counsel participating in this, to advance that bill. As Nick said, for the Fletchers, right, for Ms. Bradford, for Ronnie Anderson, to stand up to companies that have a market cap of $15 billion, $77 billion, it takes courage. It takes courage. And at the end of the day, that's what we need from everybody here, right? I mean, it's key. So when you feel like that, and Nick and I are like David and Goliath when we're out there, I can tell you, because they got the biggest law firms in the country that are representing them, and folks like us represent you. But it's not about Nick, it's not about me, it's not about Aaron Brockovich, it's about you. It's about the Bradfords. It's about the Fletchers. It's about the Fletchers, the Bradfords, Ronnie Anderson, and each of you in this room. It's about you. That's what this is about. It's not about Mohawk. It's not about Shaw. It's not about, 3M. It's about everybody in this room and what legacy we're going to leave. It's the health issues. It's the property issues. And as it's summed up, just think about it at night. If you've got to worry about your children's health because you were polluted by a nearby company, but you've got the courage to get up there and stand in front of people like that, but, I've got a strong faith. And there's a verse that talks about, be fearless. Be fearless, right? Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, be fearless because you are never alone. You are never alone. I don't care how big they are. I don't care how much money they got. But we're not scared of them. I'm not scared of them because like Nick said, if you bring them into court, it's a level playing field now. Now, they can money whip us and they can put more bodies on it and all that stuff. But let's put them under oath, sit them in a chair, cross-examine them, what they knew and when they knew it, and let 12 people decide it, all right? Totally comfortable in that forum. Totally comfortable. Because the truth, and we know what the truth is, always comes out, right? So what you've got to do is, whether you want to proceed or whether you don't with this personally, I would encourage everybody to get behind this movement because it is a national issue. And until the politicians and the big money folks, the corporations start using the product, it'll continue. And that's where we are. So we've got,
this is just another family testimonial. The Cordell family said we were blown away by our test results. The numbers are so high, it doesn't even seem real. We raised baby chicks, goats, cows. Now we're learning how expensive it is to fix this problem. It's terrifying. How did this happen without anyone warning us? And I think that last part is key. They knew. They've known for decades. They brought it by rail car over from Decatur, Alabama. There's pictures and charts we can show you where they knew it was entering fetuses in Northwest Georgia since the 70s. They said nothing about it, right? But the stories that we're getting from each and every one of you show just how real it is. And so that's why we're here tonight. Because like Ben said, whether you decide to join our team, which I hope you will, or whether you advocate in your own ways, however you decide to do it, just get up and speak out because your voice does matter. So we've got a little bit more for Bob to go over, and then we're going to wrap things up a little bit towards the end, talking about some of our legislative activities. So thank you all.
Thank you, Bob.
That's okay. Thank you. Whew, mine's on high. Okay, everybody knows a lot of this stuff, but I'm going to go over it real quick for those of you that it's your first time. So we're talking about the fluorinated substances, okay? Back in the day, your plastics, those were chlorinated carbons. These are fluorinated. Chlorine molecule, fluorine molecule. The difference with these chemicals, and right now we're looking at a test that can do about 58. So about 11,460 right now, okay? Chemical compounds in this family. They're man-made. You heard Ben talk about the fact it came out of the Manhattan Project. They are tough, okay? They are so tough they don't know that they will ever break down. They're branched or unbranched, short chain, long chain. So back to what I was saying about the C8, okay? So let's just talk about the 6 that are in the regulatory category right now. So PFOA, PFOS, they are 8-chain, which is why they were called C8. The other one that you've heard about is called Gen X. And that was when they promised us that, in the 70s, they said, well, we know this C8 might be causing cancer. We know this C8's causing endocrine issues. We're concerned about it. So we're going to go to a 6-chain because we think that in the environment, the 6-chain will break down and then we won't have to worry about it. It won't bioaccumulate and it won't cause all these diseases if it gets out, because we don't intend to let it get out, but if it does. I will tell you, as I sit here, June 13th, 2025, I have not found a drop of Gen X in Northwest Georgia. So I don't think they ever switched, okay? You'll hear the big one sometimes, PFBS, that's a 4-chain, okay, but it's still in the regulatory category. So there's a lot that's gonna have issue as we move forward. I will tell you something about the PFAS arena. I do this every day, and something changes every day. It's literally changing that fast. So what have we done in the last year? We've tested over 1,100 water samples, over 400 soil samples, 50 house dust, and mud. When you hear mud, basically we're going, and everybody's got a pond in Northwest Georgia, going out and getting underneath that pond and digging up that mud, seeing, some of these ponds, I saw the signs, 3,500, the mud's usually a whole lot higher. Talking to it? There we go. Thank you. So here's what we're talking about here. This is just a heat map that shows you Northwest Georgia is pretty catastrophic. Okay, I'm very conservative. You never heard me use these words if you've come to presentations before. Okay, but I had to start giving it some sort of a descriptor so that people could really have an appreciation and understanding for the great work that we've done. Okay, so I started out at, if you exceed the maximum contaminant level, the regulatory standard of 4, if you exceed that, it's concerning. Okay, that's a conservative word, it's concerning. If you exceed that, you're probably here in the yellow. So you're exceeding the 4, okay? If you exceed the MCL by 10, then I think it's critical. Then I think it's something we need to look at and we need to start doing something about. When you get into these red dots, that's over 100 times the MCL. And that's catastrophic. And they are very widespread, okay? Once again, as I stand before you today, June 13th, 2025, all these factories around here are discharging these chemicals today. It has not stopped. Back to having a conservative goal in life. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I got 6 grandchildren. Let me tell you something. If I could cut the amount of PFAS in Northwest Georgia in half by the end of my life, I will consider myself successful. And that is not a lofty goal, just cutting it in half. For those of you that go around the creeks here and you see them foam, that picture is about 3 weeks old, okay? We've tested the water and then we've tested the foam, and it's usually about 10 times higher in the foam, okay? These chemicals are called surfactants, okay? They actually do foam like this, okay? So these are where we're actually seeing it in the water. Got samples of the water, we got samples of the foam. You guys see this all over Northwest Georgia. I know you do. These are where we take the soil samples. This is a pond sample here. We're collecting them out here in the field. They go to the laboratory and they're analyzed. Here's what I was talking about with the dust. For those of you that we were able to get in your attics, they have these vents. That's actually like a stained glass window, but there's vents along the side that basically let the air in and out. And then we've got the side vents along the crawl spaces. We're able to get into them. Here's what we're looking at. This is the top 5 in each of the categories. Those are the top 5 water results. You can tell they're pretty catastrophic. Top 5 results that we find in the soil. And over here, 11,918,000 in house dust. That's pretty significant. Here's the chemicals that we're running the analysis for, just so that you can see it. Here's the regulated compounds that are in this category here. PFAS is down here. They're actually in alphabetical order. Before I let them come up and explain to you the legislative stuff, bioaccumulation, that's what's been the game changer with this, okay? Everybody likes to trivialize parts per trillion, okay? That's why I say nanograms per liter, because I'm not trivializing it. What's happening is it comes into your body and it stays and it accumulates. So 1 today is 2 tomorrow, and it goes up and up and up and up. I will tell you, thyroid cancer, dramatic increase in the last 25 years, predominantly among women. It's getting in the thyroid. It's literally getting in the thyroid, and the health studies that are 10 days old are talking about the fact that once it gets into the thyroid, it's not leaving. The blood continues to circulate and pass through, but it's accumulating. The only time that they're able to do PFAS testing on your liver is after you're dead. Okay, so there's not a lot of studies on that, but what they're finding is it's getting into your organs, into your endocrine system. Your liver is both a filter and part of the endocrine system. They're finding the levels in those organs, much like we're finding in the soil. So it's not like, the old stuff. If I took a drop of gasoline, put it in my coffee, drank it, my body gets rid of it in 72 hours. I'm carrying this stuff for the next 10 years.
All right, thank you, Bob. This next part is we're going to talk about HB 211, which we've already discussed briefly tonight, actually several times, and I know it may somewhat feel like I'm harping on it, but I am in a lot of ways, because it is truly what I view as a pivotal point in this entire campaign, because it showed the power of the people, right? HB 211 was introduced by local elected legislators at the Georgia legislature in late February, early March of this year, okay? The bill would immunize the carpet industry completely from any type of liability related to PFAS contamination. A lot of people in this room worked in the carpet industry, and I know that each and every one of you have some form of a story about some type of abuses that you saw related to the environment. We've heard stories about people dumping truckloads of stuff in the middle of the night into local rivers. This is real. We get more whistleblower calls to our Dalton office than we do anything else, with people wanting to speak up and tell their story about what has happened, right? Because it did happen. And the carpet industry, with billions and billions of dollars behind them, got not all the local legislatures, I don't want to say that, but several of them together to file this bill. It was disguised as a bill that would protect farmers. We represent farmers. This doesn't protect farmers, right? And the Associate General Counsel of Mohawk sat down at the legislature and testified about how this bill is needed for Northwest Georgia. And one of the coolest things that I think I've ever witnessed was when we had 4 of our clients follow that man, where they told their life stories about exactly what they've encountered. And I can tell you it's just a little bit different than what Mr. Mohawk had to say. Martha Bradford told her story about the health issues that she's encountered. The Fletchers told their story about how they bought this 5-acre piece of property that was going to be their dream home, right? They were going to raise their family there, only to find out that the creek that their kids swim in, their dogs play in, the chickens they raise, everything was possibly contaminated. They went down to the Georgia legislature and fought back against literal big corporate America. And only in America can something like this happen, where one person can speak up and can speak out, and it can actually have an impact. And that gave me just a little bit of confidence in our political system that maybe we still have something that works. And I don't know if it always works. Actually, I know it doesn't always work. But I can tell you one thing, it worked that day. And I'm pretty dang proud of it. I'm also very proud of Ben and what he got up and testified at legislature about on behalf of so many of you and on behalf of what we've encountered in Northwest Georgia over the course of the past 10 months. He wouldn't brag on himself, and that's why I'm taking this portion. I snatched the mic from him. But we're going to show a clip here really shortly that shows an impassioned response from Ben where he spoke at the Georgia legislature, and we defeated this bill. But we did it together. We went down there on 24 hours notice. They made our clients, Ms. Bradford, Mr. Anderson, the Fletchers, wait all day until 5 o'clock at night. They said, oh, well, we may take it up tomorrow. We were scrambling to go to TJ Maxx and Walgreens and get toiletries so that they could stay the next, overnight in Atlanta and they'd be there for the next day. But that's what they did. They did whatever it took to defeat this bill. And that's just so admirable to me that they would do this. This is what Ben and I went to school for. This is our profession, right? We're used to getting up in front of courts and judges and trying to go toe-to-toe with these fancy New York lawyers. That's what we signed up for. These people didn't sign up for this, but they're doing it nonetheless. And so I just want to show this video of Ben. Actually, really quickly, I do want to show some pictures because, like I said, I feel like a kid at Christmas. This is real stuff. This is the Fletchers in front of the Gold Dome, like Ben referenced earlier in the top left. This is Mr. Anderson. He worked at Shaw for over 30 years. He's seen the abuses firsthand. This is Miss Bradford and Leah, who's one of our team members. And this is, on the bottom, this is them testifying for the Georgia legislature, a once-in-a-lifetime type of opportunity that is an Aaron Brockovich type of defining moment in this campaign and hopefully and in so many of your lives because they changed something that day. And that's just very powerful to me. I want to play this video of Ben, and then he's going to come up and speak after.
Members of this committee, I'm Ben Finley. I'm going to speak very quickly because I've got 3 minutes, just very quickly. I am an attorney in Georgia. I've been practicing law for 33 years. I'm a special assistant attorney general for the state of Georgia. I represent the state of Georgia, and I represent a lot of folks in northwest Georgia. House Bill 211 is a terrible bill. It is to protect wrongdoers. The bill seeks to immunize carpet manufacturers for negligence, gross negligence, and wanton carelessness. Shaw and Mohawk, among others, have put corporate greed and profit over human lives and safety, and I can prove it today. I've heard, among others, the sponsor of the bill say, and I quote, "Sue them all if there is knowledge." Excellent questions were raised about whether or not Shaw and Mohawk had knowledge about these issues. Shaw and Mohawk's corporate representatives have testified under oath that they had knowledge of PFAS contamination for the past couple decades, and both companies were instructed by 3M to incinerate PFAS, but chose not to do so. They could have captured and killed PFAS on the factory floor, but they did not. They chose to discharge it, and it is because of Shaw and Mohawk that it hit the ground in Georgia. 3M made it. They gave it to Shaw and Mohawk, and the monies that Mohawk has made with a $7.6 billion market cap came from PFAS and stepping on the necks and the backs of people in northwest Georgia that they made a profit off of and contaminated our environment. It's called a predominance of cancers in people. It's resulted in properties being devalued, and it is absolutely tragic what has happened. Shaw and Mohawk and 3M representatives have testified under oath, including Jim Williams at Mohawk, Rick Ressler, Robert Chatt at 3M, Kelly Ballou at Shaw, Donald Davis, Jeffrey Loberbaum, Mohawk, and Cynthia Williams at Shaw, that they knew about it, had knowledge of it, and were aware of the problems with PFAS. It is absolutely tragic that this claim is going on. Let me tell you what this is about. This is about the fact that Troutman Pepper filed a lawsuit on behalf of Dalton Utilities and the taxpayers in Dalton to get remediation from Shaw and Mohawk, who have been corrupting and contaminating Dalton, Georgia, and they know they got to clean it up. It's analogous to if I came to somebody's yard and I dumped a bunch of trash in your yard, I can't say, hey, man, it's your problem. You got to clean it up. And here's the bottom line. If 3M and Daikin and DuPont don't clean it up with Shaw and Mohawk, it falls on the taxpayers of Georgia. I've been coming up here since I was 18 years old with Pete Robinson from Columbus, Georgia in 1984. I'm 58 years old. I've never seen anything like this where any corporate defendant, and I was taught better, tries to seek immunity and a walk-off home run when they are culpable, have knowledge, and are liable for these claims. It is absolutely tragic. And I would suggest that a law firm like Troutman Pepper with Chief Justice Harold Melton as one of the partners in that firm would never file a lawsuit against Shaw and Mohawk unless they do dadgum well on behalf of the city of Dalton that they had the goods on them. I'm from Columbus, Georgia. It'd be like the dang city of Columbus suing Aflac. And I can assure you the city of Columbus would never sue Aflac unless they had the information, the knowledge, and all the evidence to back up their case. So to quote the sponsor of the bill, sue them all. And that's what we're doing. We sued them all in Gwinnett County State Court. We brought a case with Gerald Davidson in Gwinnett County, a great lawyer in Gwinnett. We've got Georgia plaintiffs against Georgia resident defendants, including Murray County's landfill, Catoosa's landfill, and Gordon County's landfill, because it's going to fall on the taxpayers. And here's the tragedy. The double tragedy is that the victims are going to have to clean it up. Get a load of that. They dump the stuff on your property, and then you get to clean it up. All right, so we brought against Georgia resident defendants in Georgia State Court on behalf of Georgians, because here we are here truly to protect Georgia citizens, which everybody in this body was elected to do. We stand in unison and harmony, and I appreciate the questions before related to that. I could talk all day about this. I'm happy to field any questions that anybody may have. And I'm sorry if I went over my time.
All right. Any questions? Chairman, Vice Chair Reeves.
Thank you for coming. Has there been a case filed in Savannah recently also?
Members of this committee,
I don't know if my microphone's working now, but it was working then, evidently. Listen, I appreciate the reaction to that, but you can tell, as Nick gave you a little background on it, what we were dealing with. Literally, y'all didn't see this, but Mohawk's people testified before I did, okay? And Mohawk tried to pass this bill where nobody in this room could bring a claim against Mohawk, all right? And nobody could bring a claim against Shaw. When there's evidence that Mohawk and Shaw for decades have known about the problems, were aware of it, and chose to discard it because they put corporate greed and profit over human lives and safety. It's just absolutely despicable. And what was really kind of just unbelievable to me, check this out. Y'all couldn't see all this, but I'm testifying. There's 10 people on a committee that are looking at House Bill 211 that we testify in front of. The Mohawk guy goes before I did, and the Fletchers testified, Ms. Bradford testified, and Ronnie testified. And one of the people on the committee says to the person who is advancing the bill on behalf of Mohawk, have you read the whole bill? Do you know what this says? And the gentleman said, well, no, I hadn't really read it all. Come on now. You sponsored the bill, but you hadn't read it all? Aren't you supposed to be the one that drafted the thing, that read it? Seems to me Big Daddy must have done that for you, right? Seems to me somebody else must have put that together for you. Had you run down there and do it, all right? I'm telling you, these are the things that aren't on the news. Y'all couldn't have possibly know about this, right? They're not going to broadcast that kind of stuff. But when they have problems in court, they know they're wrong. They run down there and try to change the law or try to get immunity in that way, right? I am disgusted by, in South Whitfield County, for example, folks in carpet industry and in Gordon County stepping on the backs and the necks of folks in these communities for generations, because it's happened. And there's no doubt about it. I've watched it, I've seen it, and it's not just here. It's the kind of thing that gets me energized, because it's just not fair. And they know better and can make plenty of money and hang out at the country club and do whatever they want to do without hurting people. You can still make a fine profit. You can still run a good business. But when you know that a product is damaging people and causing cancers, and you've got all the money in the world and you turn a blind eye to it because you just don't care, that's a problem. And that's what we do, as Nick said, for a living. That's why we're here. But it's not about me testifying. I simply am a voice for you all. That's it. I'm you down there, okay? Because I've been doing this long enough, and I'm a Special Assistant Attorney General. I represent the state of Georgia. I'm a SAG, they call it, Special Assistant Attorney General. I was appointed by Republican Attorney General Mike Bowers in 1991. And I've taken on a lot of big folks and a lot of companies like this, and they don't bother me and they don't scare me in the least. They don't. All right, because I've seen it. Because at the end of the day, bullies are cowards, right? I mean, look to 1 Samuel. Look at Goliath. Look at that. Look at David. All right, David was dismissed, like Nick and I are. David is dismissed when the prophet Samuel comes to Jesse's house and says, one of your sons will be the next king of Israel. All right. When that happened, Jesse brought out 8 brothers, big strapping military guys. And he said, well, there ain't any of these. You got any other sons? He goes, well, I got a little skinny teenager out there in the field. He said, but it can't be him. He's a shepherd's boy. He's a teenager. And he's like, bring him to me. Looked at him and said, that's him. That's the one, right? Because God, like we need to see the inside of people, right? He sees the heart. I don't care if you're black or white or male or female or Asian or Hispanic. I don't care. It's the heart of a person. It's your heart. It's what's inside you, right? And so Shaw and Mohawk will dismiss you. They dismiss all of us in the ways that they do, right? So in that way, David was dismissed. He was dismissed by his own brothers. He brings lunch to them in the battlefield, right? And his brothers are like, what are you doing here, Runt? And he's, well, I'm here. And he says to King Saul, let me take on Goliath. And they're like, he'll kill you. You can't get in there. And David said, no, let me have him. He had courage, okay? He had courage, and that's what I've seen in the Bradfords. That's what I've seen in Miss Bradford. That's what I've seen in the Fletcher family. That's what I've seen in people who are everyday folks, like David. He was an everyday guy. He wasn't a big, strapping, 6'5", 220-pound, right out of Central Casting guy. He's a teenager with a slingshot, and that's it, right? But he found something inside himself that was more powerful than himself individually. Look it up. It's right there. It's no different than what you're doing today. That's your Goliath. And all of us have a Goliath we're fighting. Everybody's dealing with a problem. I don't know if it's a health issue, a marriage issue, a child off course, what the problems are, but all of us are in this together in the human condition, right? We are here for just a blink of an eye, and we're gone, and our children and grandchildren inherit what we leave. So it's upon us, if we're going to make a difference, make a daggum difference with your life, okay? Make a difference. Make a difference. Big, small, we can all do our part. Erin Brockovich is like a hero of mine. She wrote this book, Superman's Not Coming. She had the courage as a single mom to take on PG&E, get the largest environmental case at that time in America. Didn't go to law school, didn't win a lawyer, but she knew she was doing the right thing, right? Y'all go watch the movie, and she'll be back. She's got a health issue, but she'll be back. But again, I encourage everybody here, go out and tell your friends. Put it on Facebook. Talk to them. The media's here. Spread the word. Tell everybody about this, okay? Because it's a national issue. It's a health issue, all right? Everybody that knew, I have not met anybody who's come to a town hall meeting or knows about this and actually knows the evidence who has said, oh, that's crazy, Ben. I'd like to have dirty water and everybody get cancer. Nobody says that. Anybody that knows what's going on wants to change this and wants to change the world, and so do we. Now, here's how we're going to do it. We've got what's happened today with 3M and what's happened with the water systems. Lawsuits have been filed, and I'll just hit this real briefly. When we started this about a year ago, we were involved in a number of different things, testing water and the like. But two kind of really watershed moments happened in this whole project. And the first was Mohawk filed a lawsuit against 3M, Daikin, and DuPont, taking the position that they were defrauded. They were misled, okay? They didn't know a daggum thing about it, okay? But the evidence really contradicts that, but that's what's in their complaint. But what happened after that was Dalton Utilities and the city of Dalton in December filed a lawsuit against 3M, Daikin, and DuPont, the manufacturers, but the city of Dalton and Dalton Utilities filed a lawsuit against Shaw and Mohawk. That's my whole city of Columbus, Sue, and Aflac thing. I mean, think about that. The city of Dalton, and why did they do it? They had to do it. The reason they had to do it was we are told by the lawyers that we know at the city of Dalton and the filings that they put together to remediate and clean up the city of Dalton water, it's going to cost $900 million. I mean, check this out. If Shaw and Mohawk and 3M and the people who polluted it don't clean it up, if you live in that area, you get to clean it up, or you get taxed, all right? Or you're going to have to pay, or there's going to be a bond issue. So you've got a family member that's got cancer, your property's been devalued, your business has been impacted, and guess what? Congratulations, you get hit with the bill. Now, that's the biggest bunch of bull I've ever seen. You damage me, and then I get to clean it up. You must be joking, all right? So the city of Dalton, in a responsible way, in our view, and the leadership there said, look, we've got to bring this claim. It's the right thing to do, right? Citizens like us didn't make the mess. They made the mess. They made the $77 billion on that stuff. They're the scientists. They knew all about it. Why should we pay? And that's what's going on with the lawsuits. Now, today we filed cases on behalf of private landowners, actually yesterday. We filed on a number of landowners with folks who've come to town hall, folks that contact us. We get contacted all the time with landowners whose properties have been devalued, and we're going through and investigating all of these claims, but we brought these lawsuits. We're going to bring more. We brought them in Gwinnett County, and we feel very strongly about our cases, and we can share a lot of that information with you, and we will throughout this. The community fight was the community awareness and outreach, and then there was the courtroom fight. And you can see some of the, there's the Mohawk crowd and all that is part of it. But the truth of the matter is Mohawk may have a lot of money, but the power are in the individuals and the people. If you want to stand by and not do anything, that's one thing. But if you want to make a change, you get active and in any way you can. So here, who has a claim? Governmental entities have claims. There was a class action lawsuit that was brought against the manufacturers in South Carolina for water systems around the country, and it settled for $12 billion. I could spend the next hour talking about that case. but it settled for $12 billion, and 3M primarily paid the majority of it. And I've been doing this for 34 years. Nobody pays $12 billion for anything unless they did something wrong, right? I mean, they may say, well, there's no admission of fault. Bull. You spent $12 billion. I mean, come on now. You know you're at fault, and you did it. And so that class action lawsuit was settled. The city of Rome has been paid for its claim that it brought. So municipalities have claims. Business owners have claims. Let's say you're an organic farmer, and you've got the organic designation with your crops, but let's say your crops are contaminated. If your crops are contaminated and you lose your organic farmer designation, then that's going to have a dramatic impact on your sales. They're going to plummet. You're no longer an organic farmer because your crops are contaminated by PFAS. If you're a business that has been impacted in any way, you'll find you have a damages model. And I'll share this with you. Bob talks about and has educated us about the biota and about the ecosystem. What happens with this stuff, like with the fish, when they're swimming around, we eat the fish. But the fish are exposed to the contaminant with the PFAS, right? So are the chickens, so are the eggs, so are the cattle. So in states like Maine, they passed legislation that won't let you eat fish in certain bodies of water because of the PFAS contamination. Won't let you eat certain deer meat because of the contamination, because that's how we get it. As humans, we drink the water, we eat the chickens, we eat the fish. All those things provide that kind of contaminant into our bodies, okay? So the ecosystem results in all of these tragic issues when we see the cancers within animals. We see the issues with their liver. We see the issues with their kidneys. It's just a matter of time before it gets to us, right? That's the food chain. So who has a claim? Landowners have claims. If you own property and we've tested your property and you want to hire us and we want to pursue the claim, you have a claim for damages related to that. There are personal injury claims. If you have, and we've seen a predominance of in women, uterine cancer, breast cancer. We've seen testicular cancer. We've seen liver cancer. We've seen all kinds of different cancers and all kinds of different issues related to that with folks that have gotten blood work. We've seen many cancers and issues with people that there is no genetic marker. Let's say a mother and a daughter and their aunts. They're all related. They got the same DNA, but there's no genetic marker that shows it's a genetic or inherited trait because it came from the environment. I didn't get it from my mama, even though we got the same condition. It came from the environment. We've seen tragedies like a 46-year-old dad and his 19-year-old son with testicular cancer. It's not natural and normal for a 19-year-old man to have testicular cancer. It's just not. I mean, statistically. We've seen a predominance of Lou Gehrig's disease. We've seen things that you don't see. 1 in 100,000 people get Lou Gehrig's disease. All right, 1 in 100,000 people. Dalton, Georgia has about 33,000, 34,000 people in it. You could say that, look, nobody in Dalton should have Lou Gehrig's disease, right? Because they don't have 100,000 people. We've got 33,000 people. We've got 7, it looks like 8 people that have come to us that have Lou Gehrig's disease. Makes no sense. It's the environment. It's what they're exposed to, okay? It makes no sense with what the doctors tell us, with what the experts like Bob tell us about how people are in these conditions. So there are injury claims. There are business claims. There are landowner claims. There are municipality claims. But it all goes back to where it started and who started the fire. 3M, Dyke and DuPont started the fire. Shaw, Mohawk knew all about it, made profit off of it, were well aware of it, and didn't do anything other than continue to pollute and contaminate. So the claims are landowners, business owners, farmers, recreational landowners, and individuals. Then the claims are grounded in, it's really pretty basic. It's negligent claims, it's trespass and nuisance. It's like, look, like I said, I can't go dump stuff on your property without being required to clean it up. If I dump stuff on your property, it's not your job to go pay to clean it up or to clean it up yourself. It's my job because I'm the one that caused the mess, right? So if you're a landowner, you didn't do anything. You're an innocent recipient. You're an innocent municipality. You just got it. You didn't really profit from it, but you're an individual. You've been damaged, okay, and your property's been damaged. Other claims, the cancers, fertility problems, birth defects, we've seen a significant and troubling amount of those, and we just ask that everybody join the fight in whatever you're comfortable with, in whatever way you'd like to join. As you all can tell, we're extraordinarily passionate about all of this. I told you I made a commitment to my daughter. I'm going to do this every day the rest of my life as long as I can do this because it's the right thing. And when I look back at my life, and I'm telling you right now, this is the right thing to be doing because we can make a difference, and we can do it through what we do for a living, but everybody can make a difference. Everybody in this room can make a difference. It ain't about me. It's about the Fletchers. It's about Miss Bradford. It's about Ronnie Anderson. But it's about each and every one of you because everybody in this room has been impacted. Everybody's been impacted. I mean, there's no doubt that you've been impacted in some way. You directly, likely. Certainly, if not, your family members, your friends have been impacted. Your neighbors have been impacted. Everybody is impacted here. So here's what we do, and I'm kind of going through this pretty quickly because it's Friday night and don't want to keep y'all here all night. I will say this. We will stay till the last person leaves, and Aaron Brockovich always does that, and we always do. What we'll do when we kind of wrap up is we'll stay here and field questions, okay, and meet with anybody that wants to meet. We also have an office in Dalton at 517 Benjamin Way in Dalton, and so y'all come see us at the office. Some people are like, look, I've got an attorney kind of privileged or a client or a confidential thing I want to share with you privately, and we'll set up a consultation, or you can go to our website. You can call us or email us. I'll give you a business card, anything. You can call us anytime. But I want everybody to be comfortable, and I want everybody to be educated. I find practicing law, and I mediate a lot of cases, that if people are educated, they make good decisions. When people are ignorant about something or they're kept in the dark, that's when bad things happen. That's when people get in trouble because they didn't have the right information. Now, you get the right information, folks, you should make pretty good rational decisions, right? So that's part of where we are tonight, awareness and education. To that end, if you want to sign up and you turn up the back of, if you've got a folder on you, you flip to the back, it's exactly what I've got on the screen. It's like 1, 2, 3. All you need to do is authorize us, if you'd like to test your water, okay, or test your property, and Bob will go out and typically test the water, like you said, with those little, containers he showed you, and he's just going to come out there and do it. Within, 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get the results back to you. It is no cost to anybody here. We wanted to make sure that nobody here would ever be out a dime or have to write a check or have to spend any money on this at all. We'll come back with you with the results, and hopefully, and we've had situations where people haven't had a problem. We have had that situation, which is wonderful. We've had situations where people have had, issues above certain thresholds, and we've had some that have been extraordinarily high. But in my mind, everybody ought to know with whatever it is. If I got a problem, I want to know about it, and I want to address it if I have a problem, and I want help if somebody can help me with that. I had a family history of heart disease. I went for my checkup with the doctor, and I just happened to, at that point, I went into arrhythmia. I'd never been an arrhythmia in my life. And so I got an Apple Watch, right? Go to the doctor, get checked, gave me a blood thinner for a little bit to take, addressed it, right? But if I had not known, right, but I knew the problem, I addressed it, went to a doctor professional, and it ended up, and everything's good. But if you don't address the problem, that's when bad things happen. So after that, we'll give you the testing and the results, and then you can decide, what, if anything, you'd like to do. Right now, we're going to, again, sort of wrap up because, again, I don't want you to have to stay, too late. We will stay here. Some people like to write their questions out. Everybody's different, and everybody is different. Some folks don't want to speak out publicly or ask things, but we've got cards that y'all have filled out. But Bob is going to be here. Nick and I are going to be here, and we're not leaving until the last person leaves, okay? We feel so strongly about this, but again, I can't thank you all enough for being here and what you're doing because I know from the vibe in this room, I can feel it, and you all that are looking at me, I know how engaged you are about it. You would not come out on a Friday night to something like this if you weren't serious. You got plenty of other things you could be doing other than being here, and it is serious. It's serious, but it can be changed, and that's the good news. The good news is that we can change all of this if we work together. So, again, I appreciate y'all being here. God bless all of you, and we're here, and y'all come on up and ask us anything you want. But I hope y'all have a great weekend and those you need to leave. But thanks again.